My name's Sara McKillop. I graduated from the Royal College of Art painting course in 2001, and I live in London. One of the main pieces I'm exhibiting here is made out of wallpaper. I found one roll of wallpaper in a charity shop, and then after that I tracked down more rolls of it in on an internet remainder wallpaper site, and the idea was to sort of cut away sections from the wallpaper to stop it from matching, so and also to create a different pattern than the pattern that they had prescribed. But also by doing this in space, it's kind of highlighted the shape of the space more and the overall architecture of the room. Other pieces I've made, the receipt reel piece where I had a small collection of receipt reels with varying running out strips, and then I wound them and rewound them so that the end was at the beginning and the beginning was at the end. I'm quite interested in the slight variances that occur in very bureaucratic systems, so these slightly different patterns and different brands of receipt reel, and highlighting those. The jigsaw pieces, they're jigsaws made up and then turned over and stacked and placed within the gallery, so the image is hidden, revealing the cardboard colour of the underside. And there's something quite interesting about putting a very sort of fragile object on the floor of a gallery space. Also, I've made a book piece which is called Remains, which is from, I found this book in the second-hand shop, and what it was a copy of another book where it had been copied from beginning to end on a photocopier, and they'd attempted to make it into a book by binding it with spiral binding. And my intention was to take it one step nearer being a proper book by printing it back to back and perfect binding it, but at the same time one step further away, so by increments the images and text on the pages fade away by the end of it. I'm kind of interested in positioning work in places in the gallery that are usually left empty or unused, and kind of keeping the main sections of the walls and the centre points of the gallery empty. It's like when you go and visit somewhere new and everything is quite, so if you go, for example, to America and you go like somewhere like a stationery shop and it's got similar things to, basically very similar stuff that you got in England, but the slight differences. And it's that kind of slight difference that really interests me, and the sort of range within a very small parameter. The way I encounter found objects is it's kind of a distracted thing. I just kind of pick things up or engage or become interested in them while I'm getting on with the rest of my life. And my whole artistic practice is like that. It's quite distracted. I don't sort of like have this sort of, I'm going to go to the studio today and make work. I kind of do things almost in between doing that. So like if I make a work out of books, I find the books while I'm looking in second-hand shops for actual books I want to read, or the jigsaws, from noticing them through charity shops at the same time as looking for clothes or something.
My name is Mary Redmond. I studied at the Environmental Art Department of Glasgow School of Art, and then a couple of years later did the MFA there. The title for the exhibition is The Floating World, and it came directly from the Japanese artistic cultural movement, the floating world. It was based in ancient Edo, which was Tokyo. It was a time where people could, it was a change of society. It was when a city was formed and people didn't they then had free time. You know, they weren't having to like work every hour to feed themselves. They started to be able to go out in the evening, have like momentary pleasures, like going out for dinner or drinking tea. I make sculpture, and it's very physical pieces. I use a mixture of found objects and raw materials that I'll rework, and I'll work them together in such a way that it becomes hard to distinguish between the things that are found and the raw materials. The influence that I want in my work is more to do with the world around us rather than relating to some kind of high art influence. You know, it's these materials are everyday, cheap, available things that then, you know, it's how people structure their environment. And that's also what I'm kind of hoping to reflect, like people as creative, making people, being industrious with what they have, what is just normally available to them, rather than these unattainable objects, which, you know, for a long time for me as an artist, I couldn't afford to buy these materials anyway, so I had to make use of what was available to me. You know, it's like looking at something like a breeze block. You know, it's the cheapest building material, you know, used all over the world. But, you know, you can take something like that and make it special, make it an individualistic thing, you know, that somebody has then reworked and given time over to. I mean, I'm interested in seeing all the work for myself and then where it then takes me. And, you know, the sense of the reality of what it is and then the imagination and where that then comes in, I find really interesting. And so with the works, I want to give people enough space to then, you know, go off to where they want to go. You know, I'm not trying to close them in or tell them what to think. I want to open them up to possibilities, to enjoying something. I mean, a lot of it's about pleasure. A lot of the work in the show is about people having pleasure. Whether it's like somebody just making on their own, which I think with some of the pieces you might be able to see, it's like you can almost see like an individual making within that work. And then other works, there's quite often like pairs of things. And it is very much describing maybe the possibility of two people having, that's again in reference to the floating worlds. No, I actually think this show is the most important show I have ever done. I was luckily got given the Hamlin Award last year. So this is the first time ever in my art practice where I have been given money, I have a studio space, I don't have to take on other work. I've just been able to solely devote myself to making my sculpture for, you know, it's taken 9 months to make this show. I've just completely immersed myself in it, and it's amazing. It's like, I feel like I'm really starting to succinctly show what it is I want to show. And I feel like I'm beginning to get there.